How do you feel about summarizing what we just talked about?
I wish there was a summer. That's what I wish. I'd like to summarise the Sunshine Coast.
Over the last couple of years, we've seen lots of movement in the market. Prices shot way up. And now, to my untrained eye, it looks like things are maybe pulling back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering kind of what causes these big shifts in price.
Basically, it's supply and demand. So when there's not a lot of inventory and lots of people wanting to buy homes, then that's basically what happened with COVID happening and younger buyers looking to the coast as a viable option because, you know, they thought that they didn't have to go back to work and we have good internet here and, you know, people it can work from home. And if you don't have to catch the ferry, then it's a very attractive place for people to live. Now what we've seen people kind of being called back to work or realising that they do have to go back to the office. Recently, we've had ferry cancellations, whether they've been on this route or on the Vancouver Island route, and whether or not they cancel them and put them back on, that I believe has been putting people off coming over here, whether to consider living here or just coming over to look at homes. Mm-hmm. So there's less younger buyers, let's say. I think there's still the same amount of retirees looking here, but now they're not competing with those younger buyers because there's less younger buyers, and with interest rates going up and you know, things such as bylaw changes that are in the works to limit short-term vacation rentals, that kind of thing. A lot of investors are looking at the market and go, okay, we're going to dump our investment property now because it looks like that there's, you know, more supply coming on, less demand for it, and prices therefore softening. We're still in a seller's market. However, there is a lag on those stats. So I actually believe we're in a balanced market now, and I think the June stats will come out in July, and we'll see that we're in a balanced market. How quickly, you know, that we're going to move towards a buyer's market, I don't know. I mean, we've never seen inflation at this rate. We've never seen interest rates go up this quickly. There is a lot of, let's say, negative press in the media talking about slowing down the housing market. And then anecdotally to the coast, the issues with the ferries, people now having to go back to work and less buyers come. So really it's supply and demand. And what we saw when COVID first started, we saw huge demand of people wanting to move to rural communities and work remotely, and now and very low inventory because people had nowhere to go, and where would you go? And now you're seeing a lot of inventory come on the market and less demand, and so that's how that's affecting prices.
Are there properties that are more in demand now than not? Is the market split up into different sections for buyer demand?
The majority of people that were coming here during, you know, over the last 2 years kind of thing have been looking for detached homes and freehold non-strata property. And a lot of them are the new buyers or the younger buyers were families that were moving here to be able to do that because they couldn't afford that, you know, in whatever suburb in Greater Vancouver that they were living. We ran out of property pretty quickly, and then we started to see a spike in the condo and the townhouse prices. That's what we saw. Now, I find attached properties are kind of like the canary in the coal mine over here because they're the first things, kind of the first things in a downturn for you to see start to lose value. And so that's what I'm noticing, that houses have slowed down, but very much, attached properties or strata properties have slowed down faster. It does depend on the property and the development. I mean, if they're geared for our primary buyer group, which are retirees, if that's what kind of the units are designed for, or that's a demographic that they're being marketed to, then they're still doing okay. But I have noticed a spike a few months ago in condo and townhouse prices, and now that's kind of balanced out ahead of the detached homes balancing out.
You've got a few months, do you think, then, before prices really start to pull back on houses?
I don't know how quickly. I mean, it's changed very, very quickly. So I've been doing real estate on the coast for 9 years. So I mean, I've been through a downturn before, but there was no global pandemic and there was no kind of huge immediate doubling in value spike. So I don't know how quickly it's going to pull back or how much it'll pull back. I would imagine by spring next year, that's kind of the market will kind of be pretty flat at that point, and then I expect us to see some appreciation from there. But who knows if there's another, if monkeypox becomes more of a thing, or really what factors are going to have the biggest effect on the market. I'm sure interest rate increases to combat inflation, that's having a pretty big effect, and we're seeing that kind of in real time. But I'm hearing that there's segments in the market like $2 million plus where that's still there's still quite a few transactions happening there, but and under like 900,000, but kind of it's a soft spot in between. I haven't got enough data from the market kind of taking the downturn to be able to give an accurate prediction there. And the other thing that's kind of an unknown is how much of an effect people talking about the market changing is having, and how it seems to be a lot of buyers are kind of sitting on their hands saying, I'll see what kind of happens. So it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy as far as that kind of stuff goes. So the market is definitely in a state of flux. The best advice I can give you, if you are looking to see if you have an investment property or you are looking to sell, it's better for you to get it listed and get it up than delay and take time to do that, because we could very well see an even bigger drop off of buyers once kids get out of school, as is being predicted in the travel industry, is that there's a huge proportion of people that are going to go travel. And I think a lot of people may put real estate on the back burner till next year, sit on their hands and watch it, rather than worry about real estate and then see when how the dust settles when they come back.
I know that the further we look out and try and make predictions, the foggier it gets. In a general sense, do you expect that 5, 7, 10 years from now, will the trend overall be for property prices to continue to increase?
I think that as long as you're looking to hold for 2, 3, 5 years, I think no matter what you buy, you're gonna do okay on. It's just that we are seeing a correction right now, which I think was bound to happen. We couldn't continue to see the level of property appreciation that we have seen to this point. I believe that what's going to happen is we're going to move to a buyer's market next year, and I think that there'll be a little bit of time as far as that really finding its bottom. But overall, given the pandemic happening and people becoming more aware of the Sunshine Coast, there's a lot less people now thinking it's on the island, a lot less people realising that it's like a landlocked peninsula and how close it is, and all the services and stuff that we have here, and that it's a great place to live. So I think overall the exposure and more people being aware of the coast, we're not going to see too much of a drop in prices from where they are now. I think we'll see a little bit of a drop in price, but then that'll balance out. We're still not seeing a huge amount of inventory. It's all compared to what we have been seeing over the last couple of years, and so we are going to see an adjustment. And sellers specifically have really high expectations now that their house is going to sell in 3 days and they're going to get a huge amount of money for it. And that time seems, in my local experience, and primarily I'm in Gibsons, I'm seeing that it's taking a lot longer for sell. There's a lot less buyers inquiring. I haven't seen as many multiple offers recently as we were seeing before. So it's I think it's kind of a natural cycle, but I think that just with that ability for people, or the belief that people can work remotely, and then adjusting their expectations.
Do you think that baby boomers retiring is going to mean long-term strength for the Sunshine Coast? This year or next is the year that most baby boomers will retire. And I'm wondering if you think that the Sunshine Coast will benefit disproportionately from that, in the next 5-10 years.
Our primary buyer group is baby boomers. I think the Sunshine Coast is the second oldest demographic in BC. I could be right. I think Parksville's the first, we're the second. So I think that naturally that's our primary buyer group. And if there's more of them coming, then that's going to help us, balance out the pricing or the value of properties, given potentially the younger buyers, millennials, dropping off. Any projects or any homes that appeal to baby boomers are going to be in demand once everyone figures out what's happening with interest rates and inflation and is comfortable buying into the market. But like we talked about before, a lot of people I see, they're kind of like serial waiters. So they think, oh, the market's going down, I'm going to wait. Or the market's doing this, I'm going to wait. Let's see what happens. And as long as you're planning on living in a home and holding it for 3 to 5 years, normally you do relatively well. I mean, it's very important when you're buying a house to work with a local agent that can give you good advice. A lot of times we see, agents from different areas parachuting in, either because it's a family member or, they're starting out or they're not that busy kind of where they are. And so they'll go into a market that they don't know. And quite often, sometimes I guess they can get caught. So it's really important to work with a local buyer's agent that's given you good advice. But if you do that and you're planning on, holding that property, you're not trying to quick flip, then 9 times out of 10 you're going to do, or probably more, 9.9 times out of 10, if you hold that property, you're going to make some money on it. So, or at least not be paying for someone else's property by paying rent or whatever it is. And there is kind of right now I'm seeing a lot of people that are quite keen because they've been pre-approved at a certain interest rate, and now the interest rate hikes, they're qualified for $100,000-$200,000 less, so they want to spend that money while they've got that they've got that pre-approval in place. What we're moving to is a balance market, but compared to what we've been experiencing, a balance market, in my mind, is a buyer's market, because they can write an offer. They don't necessarily have to pay full price for the property. They can do inspections. They're not competing with, however many other buyers. Sellers aren't holding offers and trying to force that fear of loss, competition. And so it's kind of a more civilized way to do it. I mean, a lot of friends and associates of mine are primarily buyer's agents, and it's been, a bit of a nightmare for them over the last couple of years. I mean, some agents have been losing clients from getting buyer's fatigue. So they'll write 3 or 4 offers with these buyers, they're unsuccessful. And then the buyers, even though the agent's excellent, doing everything right and protecting them, start to think that there's something wrong with the agent. And so they end up moving with another agent and go from there. So it's been a really tough time to be a buyer, and I think over the next few months it's going to get back to being a more balanced market and a more civilized kind of buying process, and providing inventory continues to increase, then we're going to see that really flatten out, and I think realtors that have had it really easy for the last little bit, the listing agents have got to wrap their heads around the idea of working again for a living kind of thing, and it's just a different stage in the market. So I'm sure in the long run, if you can get into a piece of property, if you're renting right now and you can get yourself into buying somewhere, you're better off doing that than trying to hedge and wait for the market to change, because it's never going to drop probably enough for those people that are perpetually on the fence to want to pull the trigger.
What do you have coming online in July?
I've got a lot of exciting commercial stuff coming on. There's quite a few restaurants that are going to be listing. The funny thing with restaurants or commercial listings in general, especially in a small community, is you'll list the business or the asset sale or share sale or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, what a shame, they've gone out of business." And it's like it's quite hard, because when you advertise the restaurant or the flooring place or whatever it is that you're selling, they tend to get flooded with calls, because people are like, "Oh my God, I've got gift certificates, or I've got I've got an order in," and that kind of stuff. And not everyone realizes that when you buy a business, you run the business, and then your circumstances might change, or you might be ready to retire. So when you're selling the business, it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's a good opportunity for people coming. Either moving here or people that are at a stage of their life or have a passion that they want to try out. But I do have, I've got a few great restaurants that are listed and are coming on, and a good opportunity for people that that have that passion and want to give that a go. And then as far as properties, some great properties listed right now, kind of the full spectrum. I have a nice 1 acre piece that's going to be listed in the next little bit, but by the time this podcast goes to air, it might already have sold, hopefully, cross your fingers. So if that's the case, I think I'd just check out the website, and if anyone has any questions, they can just give me a call directly. I'm always happy to chat and give some advice, not necessarily with any strings attached. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. While you're here, maybe you want to check out one of my listings or watch my video about why you should choose me to sell your home.